Good morning, my people. I'm so happy again be with you here on this live event. As I promised you the other time, every Friday at exactly this time we shall be going live for 1 hour also when we are talking about Uganda football. Thanks for all those who tuned the other time. Though it was my first time being live and talking about a beautiful game, it was really a pleasure of having you. Of course, that means taking your time, taking your resources, that is putting on data, and of course, an opportunity cost of leaving the rest of the things you do, probably I would call more important in your lives, but to give that time to watch me, I really appreciate and thank you very much. And as I promised, every Friday, I'll be here, live chat, talking about football. The other time, being the first time, we are not so specific on what we are to discuss. I discussed very many topics, though not as in detail as they may have been, but hopefully you got my message. And this time, as I informed you, I'm discussing the evolution of our game from those initial stages when football was amateur based. By amateur, I mean when football was being played purely for leisure. When football was being played purely for leisure. By this time, as we head on, we are looking at professionalizing our game. You'll agree with me that very many events have really shaped our country, have really shaped this world. Very, very great events. Most of you have gone to school right from the primary level. Of course, there are events like the discovery of fire. There are events like the first time man walked on the moon. I think you have ever had someone called Armstrong, Adrian Baz. Those were the first guys to go to the moon. Of course, there were as well sad events like the assassination of US President Kennedy, which was almost laid live on television. But believe me, along the way, you can live all these events. But as I said, along the way, God created football. Football being a very, very popular game in our country, you should all know that it also started as an amateur game, completely amateur. To take you back a bit, the Federation of Uganda Football Association started way back in 1924, and it started as the Kampala District Association. It was the Kampala District Football Association, and it was started by the late Kabaka of Uganda, Sada Udichwa, who happens also to be its first president. So we should give a very, very big thanks to the Kabaka for having introduced this game. But of course, in the 1940s, under the chairmanship of W.B. Osley, that is the Kampala District Football Association, evolved into the Uganda Football Association. That was the UFA, the Uganda Football Association. So it is this Uganda Football Association that later evolved into the the Federation of Uganda Football Association, and this happened in 1967 between 1967 and 1968, under the chairmanship of Nation, who was the president then. Not to go too deeply into which other presidents came along the way, but of course the current president is the historical president, Engineer Moses Magogo. But of course we have got also some very common ones like the late Katumba. History has it that during the late president Idi Amin's time, the then governor of the Central Region, Mr. Nasuru, if I'm not mistaken, he came to watch a football game in Nachivubo. Unfortunately, the then FIFA president, again the late Segwanga Musisi, had traveled for Sekafa engagements. I think it was in Tanzania. So Mr. Nasuru was very bitter to come to watch a game in Nachivubo without the president of the Federation of Football Association. So what Mr. Nasuru did, he said, we have to have a meeting, and I'm told that meeting took place in the old boardroom of the old Nachivubo Stadium. So when Mr. Nasuru looked around, the people were within the building, he zeroed on the late Katumba, the one we have buried, I think, less than a month back, and then pointed his finger into him and said, Katumba, you are now the first president. So that's how the late Katumba became the first president for a period of two weeks, if I'm recall my history properly. Because what happened is that after Katumba was declared the first president, the football people gathered, went back and talked to Mr. Nasuru, and they appreciated his appointment of Katumba, but again asked that although he didn't want the late Segwanga to come back as the first president, he should accept the football people to make a conference, and then they elect their preferred for president. And also Mr. Katumba Amala accepted that arrangement, and in that arrangement he quit the position of the FIFA president in the 2 weeks, and then another president was elected. So that is briefly the history of our game, where it came from until where we are. But we have got to appreciate, as anybody will, that our game has always been a very amateur-based game. By amateur, it means it was leisure. You used to come, play when you liked, and then go. And the renomination was basically dependent on the available officials during that time. For example, there were teams that were based in factory-based teams. For example, we had teams like Uganda Breweries, teams like Nile Breweries, teams like Lint, Coffee Marketing Board, teams like Pepis, teams like Bank of Uganda, teams like Tobacco, among the rest. And those teams, we should appreciate that they really produced very, very good players that even played for the national team. But again, there was a challenge with those teams, simply because football was basically amateur. And the challenge was always that, for example, if a team, Uganda Breweries, those teams used to evolve from departmental teams. We would say the bottling department versus probably the cleaners, probably any other department. So the teams started like that. The bottling department would play within another department. They could play within departmental games. Within the departmental games, they would evolve, then go to play the mini league, and then come into super division. But then the challenge was that the managers of the departmental teams still were the managers when these teams came into the super division. So the challenge was that a manager of a departmental team who didn't have any land management skills came to manage this team in the super division, and we would agree that those different levels needed different managers, different setups, and different organizations. But we should appreciate them as well, that they did what they could, though in the later stages, with the change of the governments and whatever came up, almost these teams disappeared. And as we talk now, we have got a few like Bidiko, probably Uganda Police, Uganda Prisons, and the rest. So that was the setup of the teams. When we came into what we would call the best teams that are based on the villages, Anybody like Ntege, I'm based in Luzira, during that time, I would happen to be a very rich guy. I like football, then I would start my team in Luzira. I'll get a few friends, I would name one the secretary, I would name one the manager, and we play, and we go into the super division, we qualify and come into the what? The super division. So these teams really didn't have any organized structures. They were based on individuals. That's why you find that whenever an individual disappeared from the scene, or whenever an individual became poor, definitely the team had to disappear. So those are the teams that we had then. During that time, when you looked at the Federation of Uganda Football Association, it was not much different from how our teams were organized. When you look at the earlier FIFA presidents, the way they used to manage the game, the way they used to set up FIFA, the way the management of FIFA, the way the management of the national teams, the management of the teams, right from the lower divisions up to the national team, they were managed amateur, in an amateur setup. Probably, not most of them didn't know how to manage these teams, because none of them had studied football management, among other courses. So teams were managed on the well-being of individuals, the available resources that the individuals used to have, the available knowledge that the individuals used to have. But again, as I said, you have got to appreciate them, because during that time, that was what was available. The world was not so opened up. People did not learn much. People did not explore. People did not read. I'm not saying that reading too much now, because they say we have got the same problem as now. Some of them are still persisting. But during then, that is how they would what? That's what they would offer. And that is what was available. But down the line of football development, things started changing a bit. Why did they start to change a bit? Organized football administrators started coming into football. I would appreciate that I did start learning more about football. It must have been during the Twaka Kaire regime. Along the way, from Twaka Kaire came the late Dennis Obua. As I said the other time, we did a great job. We put up this house, among other things. Then again came Mr. Mlindwa Lawrence, who also did his part. He put up the FIFA Technical Center, revived the image of the national team. As time went on, came the historical FIFA president, Moses Magu, who in my opinion has been by far the best FIFA president, and I will tell you why. Depending on the setup of the teams, the setup of the local teams, the setup of the national team, among the rest. First of all, let me first appreciate my people who are watching. Thank you for watching. I can see good friends of ya, Kamoga Thunderman, Nabagala Ruth, Mahad Bright, watching, among others. Thank you. So, going forward, the teams, as they were during that time, started to change a bit. And how did they change? One, it was through the organization that FIFA put forward. FIFA came up with what we call the team structuring. Team structuring meant that we had to structure the super division teams, or call them the Uganda Premier League teams. Why it started like that? Because they were the top teams. So they had to be the first to be restructured, then head down to the big league, fourth division, among others. So what FIFA did in the initial stages, it provided the education of both the chairman and the other administrators of these teams. Previously, these teams had secretaries who are the managers of these teams. As we talk now, FIFA introduced the CEOs, the chief executive officers. I was fortunate to be one of the earlier people who got the opportunity to study as a CEO, a club CEO. A club CEO meant that when these guys, the club CEOs, were given this knowledge to transfer back to the clubs, it meant that the rest of the club administrators had to take a back seat and leave the club CEOs to manage the day-to-day activities of these clubs. I would appreciate some of the clubs have managed to do it, although not as much as FIFA would have liked. But some, as normal in development, have not hindered to that. They have called the club CEOs, they have got them there, they pay them the money, but they have honestly refused to give them all the necessary support to manage these clubs. So, which meant that the politicians of the clubs, which were the managers, the presidents, call them the chairmen, had to take a back seat. Simply because these chairmen, most of them are business guys, most of them do their own work, so they give little time to the clubs. So it was wise for FIFA to bring the CEOs, to give them that knowledge to manage these clubs. These CEOs, they went through a proper education. The challenge is now for the club officials to really hand this power to the chief executives of their clubs, to really carry out their duties as the real what? Chief executives. Back to FIFA. You'll excuse me, I'll be going to the clubs and then to FIFA. Previously, FIFA was structured in a way that the politicians were doing all the FIFA work. That meant that the executive members, the delegates, were doing the executive work. As I noted the other time, during then, FIFA had a workforce of eight permanent workers without any proper job description. 8. But as I said, as of now, FIFA is boasting of a workforce of 60 permanent workers with the proper job descriptions, which means that now it's the executive to make the policies and these workers do the implementation. It is exactly what FIFA wanted for the clubs, that let the presidents, let the managers, let the directors of those clubs do the policies and pass the policies down to the chief executive officer of the club, who in then supposed to supervise the rest of the workers of the club and implement what the other guys up there have passed. Which means it is exactly the same setup as in FIFA. It is the president with each executive, they do the policies, they pass the policies to the FIFA chief executive, who in turn pass those policies to the workers to do the implementation. And trust me, this has worked well for FIFA. So now the onus is on the club officials. Can they really look at FIFA with its success story and do the same transfer to the chief executive of their personal clubs to do the implementation of those policies? Straightforward. Previously, clubs were struggling with the sponsors. I want everybody watching me here to acknowledge that before the arrival of Ingenia Moses Magogo, only a few clubs would attract sponsors. Apart from the previous ones, which ones you would give credit, for example, Sports Club Villa, this first attracted sponsors in 1988 when they were sponsored by AGIP. Of course, during my time at Express, we had GAPCO. But apart from that time to the previous time, there were really a very, very big gap without any club attracting what? Sponsors. I would give the clubs a bit of credit for having watched how FIFA does its thing through the sponsors and the clubs have duplicated it, and some have got good sponsors. Look at clubs like Vipers, clubs like KCC, clubs like Onduparaka, clubs like Bidiko, among others. They have really done their best, although that's not where we want them to be. But we would appreciate they have tried to do their best. But we call for more energy. We call for more work to be done. That clubs should be entirely based on sponsors, especially those clubs not, as of now, attracted a number of supporters. Because if you go in the European clubs, I think the biggest percentage of their revenue is through the sponsors. It's through the spectators. Because they have got the numbers, they sell the shirts, they get collections, among other merchandise. So it is through that they add the sponsorship money to earn that money that they have got to pay their players and move as professional clubs. So back home here, if you have got clubs, for example, like URA, which in my opinion has not attracted as many fans as it should have been, which means their base would be within sponsorship. So they should do their best, if possible, to come and liaise with the FIFA to make sure that they attract sponsors. And how do you attract sponsors? The attraction of sponsors depends on your team you put up. As I've been telling you earlier, is if we have got the chief executive, and the chief executive of that club will assemble his team that he feels can run this club, of course from the media, through the marketing, among other departments, depending on different clubs, because we should appreciate that different clubs have got different budgets and have got different capabilities. But one of the capabilities I think that each club should have is the marketing department. Because without the marketing department to market your club, to market your team, there is no way you can attract sponsors. First of all, the sponsors need an organized team. Sponsors need the numbers. That is the spectators. That's why it puzzles me that clubs like Sports Club Villa and Express, which in my opinion have got the biggest number of supporters in Uganda, up to now, they lack the proper sponsors. All the sponsors they have don't give as much money as could have been given. And probably, I think the problem may be on the team organization at the top. Back to where I'm going. As I was telling you, the organization of football has been evolving from clubs to FIFA. Both the clubs have evolved a bit and FIFA has evolved. But you would agree with me that FIFA has evolved big time. FIFA has taken giant strides forward for the good of football. I'm not saying we have reached there. FIFA still has got a long way to go. But depending on where FIFA is coming from the years down the road, these are actually big strides. And in my opinion, if Moses Magogo had become the FIFA president much earlier, you couldn't imagine how football would have been. But there's nothing we can take back. We are moving forward. And I'm telling you, we are moving in the right direction. Thank you for watching. I'm still on. Ivan Kakembo, CEO, former CEO, URA. Thank you for watching. My senior, Amidi Juma. Thank you for watching. Adam Andaku, the boxer. Thank you for watching and thank you for working for boxing. Fast forward. Let us look at FIFA. The Federation of Uganda Football Association is a private entity. Many people would not like to listen to this. Probably have got their other ideas. But the fact is, it is a private entity with its members. That has been approved recently when some individuals had taken the FIFA president to FIFA. The Auditor General came out boldly and wrote a letter and said FIFA is a private entity and they do their things privately. Probably what is confusing to some of the people about FIFA is that the government of Uganda does not finance FIFA. The government of Uganda finances the Uganda Cranes. But FIFA happened to be the body that is in charge of the Uganda Cranes. And Uganda Cranes can only play international games when it is registered by FIFA internationally and not any other what? Organization. That is one of the confusions the people are getting, that, but the government is putting money into FIFA, which means it's a government what? Organization. The government only gives FIFA money to cater for the Uganda Cranes. But FIFA has got other 8 national teams apart from the Uganda Cranes, which it caters for. I repeat, FIFA has got other 8 also national teams that the government does not cater for. The government caters for the Uganda Cranes. So FIFA is a private entity with its members. I hope this is very clear to some of my friends who have of recent failed to accept that FIFA is private. Of course, the members of FIFA are 34 members that make up FIFA. Among those, they include the 16 Uganda Premier League clubs. So once your club is in the Uganda Premier League, it is a member of FIFA. But the setup is that after every year, at the end of the playing season, 3 clubs are rated and 3 clubs are what? Brought forward. So the ones that are brought forward, automatically they become members of FIFA. The ones that go down, which is also a member of FIFA. So as I was saying, that FIFA, the members are the 16 clubs of the Uganda Premier League, the FIFA Big League, the regional football associations. When I talk of regional football associations, I talk of the 8 FIFA regions. The 8 regions that make FIFA, that football regions. And they are as follows. We have got Buganda, we have got Western, we have got West Nile, we have got Chitara, we have got Eastern, Northern and Northeast, plus Kampala. Many people will ask, why do we have Kampala at the same time we have got Uganda? The reason is Kampala was given a special status simply because of the football activities that take place in Kampala. We shall all agree that probably most football activities in our country take place where? In Kampala. That's why Kampala is a full region of FIFA. Among other members, we have got what they call the special interest groups. The special interest groups include the Uganda Football Players Association. That is the association that covers for both the ex-internationals and the current players. We have got the Uganda Women Football Association. The Uganda Women Football Association is an association responsible for women football. We have got the Beach Football Football Association. We have got the Uganda Coaches Association. This is the association that is responsible for all coaches in Uganda. We have got the Referees Association. We have got the Uganda Schools Football Association. we have got the Youth Football Association, and as of recent, we have got the Futsal. Those are the associations that make the interest groups, which are 8. And lastly, we have got the FUFA Women Elite League. So that league is also represented, has got a member, is a member of FUFA. So those are the members of FUFA, which is a private entity. It is not a government entity, it is a private entity managed by its members. And all decisions are taken by its members through the General Assembly. It is this General Assembly that elects the president of FUFA. And it's a Chisanja of 4 years. And the president comes with his executive committee. So the executive committee and the president hold power in trust of its members. Those are the 34 members of FUFA. So I hope everybody watching, those ones watching can tell friends that FUFA is a private entity that does its work privately, which is affiliated to CAF, Confederation of African Football Association, which is affiliated to FIFA, the Federation of International Football Association. The way FIFA is structured is almost the way CAF is structured, and it's the way FIFA is structured. So those structures come down from FIFA through CAF up to FIFA. Because even FIFA is private, CAF is private, and FIFA is private, just like all other football associations in other countries. That's why FIFA is telling you that it does not accept third-party interference. Third-party interference means that, for example, if somebody is into the government, or is the minister of sports, or is the president, or anything, he could come up one day and say, I think so and so would be the FIFA president. But remember, FIFA is private, affiliated to FIFA. So which means if anybody would come from anywhere, for example, government, and give a directive that so and so should be a president of FIFA, or so and so should do this, that means third party what? Interference. And in many cases, when FIFA sees any third party interference, it is a direct ban. It has happened to several countries until they lift that interference, and then FIFA will admit you as its member. Again, I thank you for watching, brothers and sisters. Alex Lexus, thank you. Cliff Ragasole, my man from London, United Kingdom, thank you for watching. David Opoka, Obi, Kololeses, Avis Naguru, and the Diary Football Club. Thank you for watching. Patricia from London, Julius Jogo from South Africa. Thank you for watching, brother. And thank you for the support. Let's go fast forward. Here is the big question. The last one we are tackling. What has made FUFA, what has made the current FUFA exceptional from the previous ones? When I use the word exceptional, I'm using it deliberately because I know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a FUFA 6 years back, which was run on a 4 billion budget, and 6 years down the road on a 40 billion budget. I'm talking at FUFA, which 4 years back, on record, the president of Uganda saying that he didn't know much about FUFA and was even not aware of some of the teams like Express. But today, we are seeing a government contributing 10 billion shillings annually for the national team, the Uganda Cranes. I'm talking of FUFA 4 years back, which had a working force of 8 workers, to a FUFA that is having a working force of 60 permanent workers, proper job descriptions, properly paid National Security Fund, properly paid through the bank systems, among others. I'm talking of FUFA in the previous year of 2019, where Uganda became the champions of the under-17 men's team, Sekafa, the under-17 women's team, Sekafa, the national women's team, Sekafa, the COSAFA champion in under-17, where Uganda participated in the African Cup of Nations back-to-back qualification with the second best good performance, where we qualified for CHAN for the 4th consecutive time, among others. And the reason is simple: good leadership. When you have got good leadership, nothing can fail to happen. When you have got good leadership, it makes things happen. It is through this good leadership that has managed to build the FUFA brand to unprecedented heights. Trust me on this, brothers. There is no brand in Uganda. I'm telling you, there is no brand in Uganda that can be hit from left to right, can be ridiculed, can be told lies about, among other many things that they have done to FUFA, and it remains strong, committed, financially stable, and moving forward very fast. The people who abuse the FUFA president, the FUFA officials, through the radios, through the social media, and the rest, if you had done that to any other brand in Uganda for all those past years, that brand would be no more. But because FUFA has got visionary, well thought out leaders, that is why it has always stood the test of time. That is why it has stood so firm, despite all those negative reporting, all negative activities. But it's because of good leadership. And trust me, it is very, very much appreciated to appreciate the historical FUFA president, Moses Magogo, for what he has done for football, for having put up a very strong and committed team that includes people like the first vice president, Mr. Mugisha, the second vice president, Mr. Mugwe, and the rest. Sorry, the third vice president, minister, Madam Nachwara Chinji, among the rest of the executive members. Very strong, committed men and women who have withstood all the storms, all the lies, all the concussions to make FUFA what it is today. Trust me, as I said earlier, no brand can withstand this. But because of the type of leaders we have at FUFA, they have managed to do this. And you know why? Unlike other activities world over, football is a bit different. And what makes it different? Very, very simple. When you are managing, for example, a factory, whether your brother left it for you, whether your father, whether your auntie, whether you have worked for yourself and made a factory, probably a school, probably a law company, probably anything you're running. In that activity, the owner takes the final decisions of who to hire, who to fire, when, where, what. But in football, no matter how rich you are, no matter how much money you put in, some of these decisions are not yours. You can put in a team billions of money, but you won't choose who plays. Which has been and remains a very, very big challenge to some of the actors in football. Somebody thinks the millions I have put in a team, how come somebody is telling me I don't decide who plays? Because who plays is decided by the coach. Unless you accept to go professional, as FUFA does, despite the fact that Ingamos Magogo is the FUFA president with his executive, and the wonders they have done, they cannot choose who plays for the national team. They cannot even choose who to call. I'm personally the national team's manager. I don't choose who plays the national team. I don't even give a suggestion. It is the coach who gives me a list of the players he needs. And my job is to talk to the players, where they are coming from, which airports they are using to pick them, to the hotel, and the coach does his work. So, my dear brothers, I want you to note this, that unlike all other activities, football is quite different. That however much money you invest, however much time you put on, you don't take some of the decisions. Goes back to our first point. If you're a club official and you have accepted that so and so is the chief executive, please empower the person, she or he, to carry out his job. That is what FUFA has done in all its activities. And trust me, with a very, very high level of success. Ladies and gentlemen, ebirungi bigwa biwoma. Thank you, Bossa, Waswa, Serunjoji Frank, Sechewa John Mark, Julius Jogo, my lady, Patricia Chiwanuka from UK, for watching. Tom Torres, thank you. I appreciate all of you guys, the ladies and the men, for watching me live. As I promised, every Friday from 11 a.m. for an hour and so, I always be going live. And as I promised in the coming episodes, we shall make them a bit more and more interactive. I'd also wish that the viewers will decide some of the topics we shall be tackling. As usual, I remain Ntege Patrick Kawesa Owefombe, and thank you guys. Take care of yourselves. God bless you. Let us meet next Friday. Bye.